I do want to get into this last bit here, or it'll probably take a minute. But all right. Any teams, and I can go first if you need a minute. Any teams? We'll start with drafts that we liked. Any drafts that you said, man, like this team, they really hit the draft really well. If you need a minute,
How about you go first?
okay. So I'll start. Um, I'll start with the Jets, and I know that's surprising because it's the Jets, but maybe new regime. I mean, obviously, yes, they did get my guy. I'm trying to find them. Where the heck are they? How the hell the NFL does this? New York. Okay, whatever. But yeah, I have a picture of them. They obviously got Zach Wilson, and then let's try to find that. Jeez. Sorry.
Vera Tucker, they traded up for him.
I
You
like
got
the
Elijah
offense.
Moore.
Yes, Elijah Moore, then Michael Carr. Like the first four picks, all offense, building around that offense, building around Zach Wilson. And the point was made, which is true yet sad. Never did anything like this for Sam Darnold, which is tough.
Right.
But hey, I mean, at least they've learned for it. At least they're moving on. This regime's doing better. But yeah, like we mentioned, I mean, Michael Carter, he was I think my second. No, he was my third running back. Very close to second. And then they get him in the fourth. Very good to pair him with, like we mentioned before, Tevin Coleman, who has had issues staying healthy on the field. So if anything, you at least have Michael Carter. And then yeah, like you mentioned, your guy Elijah Moore in the at the second, very good pickup too. Pair with Corey Davis and your boy, I'm blanking his name. God, the draft just got me all these names mixed up. Denzel Mims on the boundary, very good pairing there for. And then if what's his name, Herndon can ever finally break out, but regardless, I'm liking what they're doing on offense there. I really like the Jets draft. I liked the I like the Jacksonville. I mentioned it in our post. I mean, it seems like I don't know if like after round one they just went and looked at at our stuff. But Tyson Campbell, who I would have loved at Green Bay's pick, um, but then you get my guy Walker Little in the second, maybe a little early, but hey, they were high in him. They
They
can
I'm
they can
they
work him
saw your
in.
stuff.
They can work him in though, because they still have Cam Robinson on the franchise tag. They got Jawan Taylor in the second or third round like a year or two ago. So if anything, maybe I think he can still play guard if he needs to, or he can take one of those spots, especially if I just mentioned his name. The other guy that they drafted a few years ago, he can take the right, or they can move Cam Robinson to
Cam
the right.
Robinson,
Not Cam Robinson, Jawan Taylor. Sorry, I don't know why I
Juwan
blank.
Taylor.
He's been kind of iffy. So hey, they can plug him in. But yeah, I mean, I loved it. And then even Andre Cisco in the third round. I liked him as a safety. Once again, kind of like some of these other guys, injury concerns, which when you're when you were the worst team in the league, you can take swings like that because if you, especially in the third round, you take a swing like that, you miss. Oh well, but if it works out, hey, great value for you. You took the risk, and you can also. There's no hurry to bring back these quote unquote injury prone guys that quickly. You can let them slowly come back, ingratiate themselves, and get acclimated to the NFL. So those two I liked off the top of my head. Was there any you had? I sit here and look through my notes. There's another
Real
team.
quick, just a note about the Jaguars. Apparently, all four of those first four guys, maybe even, I don't think five, but the first four picks they took being Trevor Lawrence, Etienne, Tyson Campbell, and Walker Little. Reportedly, Urban Meyer offered every single one of those guys a scholarship to Ohio State. So he knew them. All right.
He already did his
And
homework.
yeah, so I will say Pete Carroll had this sort of advantage early on in his career where he knew the first few groups of guys that were coming out very well, and he hit some home runs in the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth rounds. Obviously, the first rounds, a lot of people sort of know the talent, right? Everyone knew they're going Trevor Lawrence. But he, quote unquote, reaches that he knew the talent that they had in college and even in high school. And so he knew the ways that they could impact an NFL team, right? And we saw with Seattle, right? Those first few years, Russell Wilson, third round pick, Richard Sherman, fifth round pick. I can't remember what Cam Chancellor was. Earl Thomas was like a second round pick. So they had a lot of guys that weren't necessarily, considered that elite group of talent that they, capitalized on because of his knowledge. And so, hey, Urban Meyer, good for you. Getting the guys that you wanted all those years ago. But a team that I really liked their draft, which I think because they didn't get a pick that was super high, might be sort of forgotten about. But it's the Tennessee Titans. They went out, they got Caleb Farley, which at 22, that was about where I had him mocked. I think had the Colts at 21 taking him, but I meant to have the Titans at 22 taking him. I just in the moment forgot that that's where I meant to have him go. But I thought it was a great fit. A team that's desperate for a corner that would take that sort of home run hit, because if he pans out and there's no injury concerns in the future, they got a stud for a defense that desperately needs it. In the second round, obviously everyone knows about Isaiah Wilson, the tackle they took last year in the first round, and all the stuff that happened with him. Well, boom, they replaced him. Dylan Radunes, I think is how it's pronounced. And so you get a lineman to further bolster your line to help out Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill. So I love that. In the third round, they went and got a linebacker, Monty Rice, out of Georgia. Once again, a defense that needs help desperately, so they spent a third round pick on a guy. But then I really liked Elijah Molden, the corner out of Washington, also in the third round as a compensatory pick. I wanted Dallas to take him. He got taken right after us because we took a different corner. But I think him and Farley combined have a lot of potential to be a really strong duo for them for a long time. But I mean, even in the fourth round, trying to find where they took Rashad Weaver, who you had going, I think, to the Saints or maybe the Bills in the first round of your mock draft.
I think it was the Bills.
Yeah, and even like Mel Kiper and the guys on the ESPN stuff, they were like, "Wow, we were surprised that Rashad Weaver fell this far. We had like a second round grade on him." So once again, a defense that needs guys like home run hits, and so they took risks on guys who had injury concerns or guys who maybe slid for whatever reason, and if they pay off, I think Tennessee, we could look back and be like, "Wow, Tennessee, they built their defense in the 2021 draft."
Yeah, obviously I love that pick. One other pick that I really did like too was or not team, but another team's draft. Miami. I really like what they did. I like Devonta Smith better than Jalen Waddle, but hey, they took Jalen Waddle. I'm not going to sit here and say that's a bad pick. Jalen Phillips at 18, you get your difference maker on the front four. On my big board I had Javon Holland kind of high. I think he was my best safety. So the fact that just to add a good, because I mean their secondary, especially we don't know their secondary is really good, but we know their safeties were okay at best. Now they maybe can even be even better with the guy like him in the back, and then Liam Eichenberg, a guy that can contribute right away on the offensive line. They traded away Eric Flowers, and so maybe I think he can play either tackle spot. So and their line wasn't too bad last year, so maybe it could be better from there. And then Hart Long was a solid tight end too. I think he's more better of a blocking tight end. So now you have, him, Smythe, and Gasecki. It's a pretty deep tight end room too. I know they didn't really go running back, but I know they have the New England approach where they have 4 or 5 guys ready. They have Gaskin, Salvin Ahmed. I think they still have Jordan Howard running around there. I'm not sure. They probably do. But regardless, Elliott would be maybe the only position I would have said pre-draft that they might address, but it doesn't surprise me that they really didn't. So, but I really like what they did draft-wise. Built a little bit more around Tua, but also still, got some guys on both ends of the ball, and they still have a few more. I think they have, 3 draft picks or a bunch of first rounds going forward, so still have a lot of ammo, and they don't have a lot of big contracts outside of Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. So I really like what they did there. Trying to see, I'm not sure there's any other teams I really.
I mean, one team that I quietly liked that once again they might even get less attention than the Titans would be, I liked the Atlanta Falcons draft personally. Kyle Pitts, obviously, home run hit. I think he could be a Pro Bowler year one compared to a lot of these guys, maybe not, but with a tight end position, there's a shot there. Also, just with the offense that they have, I could see him getting 1,000 yards first year, honestly. So great pick there, but that was sort of an obvious one. But the second round, I really liked Richie Grant out of UCF. I wanted Dallas to get him. We didn't, but solid safety. I mean, he makes a lot of plays on the ball. So I was a big fan of them taking him, especially after they lost Keanu Neal and Devonta Casey. They get a guy who can, fill in that spot. They took Jalen Mayfield, to tackle out of Michigan in the third round. Another solid selection. I mean, ultimately in the draft, the offensive lines classes are typically just so deep that in those sort of third, fourth, fifth round selections, you get offensive linemen. Hey, you could potentially get a starter out of that, you know. Trying to look what else they took. I think they have one more pick that I really liked.
I'm gonna read them off. I have them right here. So third round, they got Jalen Mayfield, offensive tackle out of Michigan. Fourth was
Right.
Darren Hall, cornerback out of San Diego State. Fourth round also was Drew Dahlman, center out of Stanford.
Drew Dahlman, that's who
Okay.
it was. I was a fan of that pick. I mean, I think they still have Alex Mack, right?
No, he's in San Francisco now.
Right, San Francisco. So, I mean, they don't have a center.
Yeah.
So they took a guy in the fourth round, which also the way that the center position has gone the last few years is that you can get like the best center available in like the third round. Like that's just sort of how the position is. I mean, the Cowboys took Tyler Biotish last year in the fourth round, and he's going to be our starter for the future.
Landon Dickerson, my guy. I think we both were high on. Went second. I thought
Yeah,
he
he
would go
went
first.
second round, and I think that's probably. I think he went higher than most centers because he has versatility to play guard too, so
Yeah,
he can play guard
'cause
until.
He'll probably play guard
Yeah.
until Kelsey retires and then
Yeah.
move over.
But I mean, the Chiefs took Creed Humphrey.
I about to
which
say that was another team that I forgot to mention. I know they didn't have many picks. We got Creed Humphrey, and then the linebacker they took, Nick Bolton, was solid too. Like only having two, really utilizing their 2 second-round picks. I feel like pretty well on top of what they already have.
Yeah. So pretty much any of the centers that were drafted, I was a big fan of. But yeah, I liked the Falcons draft because I think quietly they're building the foundations for what's to come in the future. But also they got guys who can have an impact right now. Right, Richie Grant is going to be a starter day one. Kyle Pitts is going to be a starter day one just because of the need that they do have. So although they're not going to be competing for the playoffs necessarily, which hey, maybe they do and they shock the world because of their offense, but I don't think they'll be a playoff team, especially in the division that they're in. I think they had a solid draft, throughout the weekend.
Yeah. So